This just in. Breaking news, our top story tonight. Topless dealers in Malta caused quite the stir in the poker community. Is this something that needs to change, or do we have to play the hand we're dealt? Next up, Joe Ingram has now posted, and I believe this is an up-to-date tally as of this moment, 119 Mike Postle videos. I mean, I get it, it's a big story, but I think it's time that we should all move on from this. Also making headlines, Andrew Yang tweets out supporting legalized online poker in America. Good thinking, Yang. All of that universal basic income does have to go somewhere. Yang has also said he'd love to sit down and talk things out with Joe Ingram. I'm kind of playing this out in my head how it's going to look.
And joining me today on the podcast, guys, is a young man.
Hey, Joe.
Andrew.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Today I'm playing on Poker After Dark, Pot Limit Omaha, the great game.
We're going to lose 5, 10, 50,000.
So, guys, this podcast is going to be sponsored by the Women of Columbia. I was just there.
Yeah, and that's how I got there, Joe. That's what my campaign for president is all about.
And finally tonight. Actually, what do we got finally tonight? Norman Chad complaining about tournaments. More Mike Postle allegations. Some Daniel Negreanu vlog news. Nah, let's just go ahead and end it there. But before we get into the good news today, I want to make an announcement. Upswing Poker is announcing the launch of its short deck mastery course by Kane Callis. If you've been watching high stakes poker over the last couple of years, there's no doubt you've seen this format become more popular. In fact, the Triton High Roller Series has had a bunch of these tournaments and cash games, and we've actually covered some of them right here on the channel. I think what makes it a game that's rising in popularity is that it's so easy for casual players to hop in and play. You don't have to learn a whole new rule set as well as get more cards. It's just no limit hold'em without the deuces to fives. So I think this game may become more popular in the future as well. This is why we decided to team up with a high stakes short deck expert. In fact, Kane Callis is one of the world's best players at short deck to create a course that let you guys learn how to play at a high level, especially in games where you're going to have a lot of new players and a lot of people that aren't familiar with all the odds and how to play things correctly pre-flop. This can give you a huge edge when you're playing those games. The course has 10 hours of theory videos as well as 17 hours of play and explain videos, and to round it out, we've included pre-flop master sheets for 50 ante, 100 ante, and heads up play. The course costs $9.99, and if you sign up by November 1st, you'll receive an additional free course, How Tom Dwan Plays Short Deck, which will go on sale afterwards at $300. If you're interested in the course or learning more about the course, I'll put a link in the description below. Moving on, let's talk about this topless dealers in Malta issue. Now, when I first heard about this, I woke up and I checked Twitter, as I do most days, and I saw a lot of people that were upset about this event. And my first instincts were that people were needlessly getting upset over something because that's what people like to do. But I think I was wrong here. Essentially, there was a ladies' event in Malta where all of the dealers showed up topless in Chippendale's outfits as poker dealers. Don't know if we want those two things to mix. Here are just a few various scenes from the event. It was an interesting tournament to say the least. As I said before, when I first heard about this, I thought people were being pretty ridiculous. First off, it's topless men, which isn't exactly the same as topless women, but either way, if dealers are willing to be paid and want to be paid for their work where they wear whatever clothes they do or don't want to wear, I think that's totally acceptable. In fact, there are some nude maid services that will clean your house totally naked, and again, that's also fine. As long as workers have a safe environment and what they're doing is legal, I see no issue here. And then from the consumer standpoint, as long as people are informed on what they're purchasing and they choose to buy it, I also think that's fine too. This is just the way that commerce works. But there were a couple issues here that make this a little bit different. Apparently, from what I've been reading on Twitter, dealers were notified just an hour before that this was actually going to be topless, and it wasn't optional. I can only assume that this led to some rather awkward conversations. Yeah, Frank, why don't you take the day off? We're actually not dealing poker today. I think you look a little bit... Is that cough? Frank? I think we'll see you tomorrow. I don't think you should just assume that if someone's a poker dealer, then they're also okay being a topless poker dealer, which, I'm sure some are, but the point is you can't just lump people into that. Now, again, that's not a 100% confirmed piece of information. It's just what I've been reading online, and I can see how that might upset people. Additionally, I do not think that the ladies were all 100% informed on what they were signing up for, which again is very different, because if ladies sign up to play a ladies event with topless male dealers, seems fine to me. But if ladies sign up to play a ladies event and they show up and this guy is dealing at your table, Yeah, it's a little weird. In response to this public criticism, the Battle of Malta released a ladies' event statement which said, after careful reflection, we would like to apologize wholeheartedly for any offense caused during this year's ladies' event. They went on to say that they are donating all of the registration fees to Pink October Malta. So at the end of the day here, uncomfortable moments for sure, but looks like they got everything squared away and donated some money. Not a big deal. Moving on to our next topic, and I gotta say this one caught me a little bit off guard, but presidential candidate Andrew Yang has come forward wanting legalized online poker across the US. Now this has caught a lot of people off guard. Wait, hold on, I'm receiving some news. Yes, okay, here at Poker News Studios, we actually have Sheldon Adelson on call. Let's see what he has to say.
Go ahead there, folks. Set yourself up a couple of dolls.
That's the type of top-notch reporting you get here at Poker News. This hat's actually too small, so I'm gonna put it down. It's downright refreshing to see a presidential candidate who has almost nothing to gain by supporting online poker saying it because he thinks it's the right thing to do. I mean, a president who's out there saying things that probably aren't very popular but are the right thing to do. Ah, fuck, this guy's gonna lose, isn't he? Regardless, obviously the poker community has embraced this fully. I mean, this actually was probably, if I kind of had to guess, the poker community's favorite candidate for the next election, being that I do think at least the online community tends to skew a little bit more liberal, and then of those candidates, he was the most logical and math-based candidate. The actual tweet read, online poker is legal in 4 states. The state-by-state rules are variable and push many players to offshore sites. We should clarify the rules and make it legal in all 50 states. U.S. players and companies should benefit and new tax revenues could be used to mitigate addiction. It's just so beautiful. Oh yeah, that's right, we're doing the news. Anyway, after this, Joe Ingram responded with his own tweet, tweeting to Andrew Yang saying,
Hi, Mr. Yang. My name is Joe Ingram, and I host a popular poker podcast here in the poker world. And I'd like to invite you on my show to talk about the online poker tweet that you just made related to how it's only legal in 4 states, and therefore it pushes players to have to play on these offshore sites. And the state of poker for American poker players right now is very, very bad.
To which Andrew Yang responded, thanks, Joey, would love to sit down. So it appears at some point there will be a sit down between Joe Ingram and Andrew Yang. When we don't know if he would love to do it, but he can't. But I think he probably means that they're going to, and so I'm going to have to stay tuned to see what happens. And finally tonight, let's talk about tournaments. And let's talk about the World Series of Poker. Now, as most of you don't know, there is something called the World Series of Poker Player of the Year. I'm not going to bother going into it. But the point is, at the end of the World Series, somebody gets to be the champion of the whole thing based on a point system that nobody cares about. In fact, we did a little bit on that a year or two ago where I pretended that people actually cared about it at the World Series of Poker.
I'm not going to make it. It's too far. I can't win Player of the Year.
You know, one of the reasons I've always wanted to win Player of the Year is the perks. Well, for some reason, and it's not entirely clear to me what that reason is other than to just simply make money off of people, the World Series of Poker includes its European leg in its points tally, and this drives a bunch of Americans over there to try and win tournaments or win events or get points or be popular. They really want to be popular. Now, those events have slightly different rules than the ones in America, and this has prompted a series of tweets by Norman Chad, who wasn't exactly happy about the whole thing. Norman tweeted, WSOP Europe, all 15 events are re-entry, and 11 of them are unlimited re-entry. Somebody has hijacked the World Series of Poker in broad daylight. He also tweeted, WSOP Europe, every single event is re-entry, and most of them are unlimited re-entry. These are World Series of Poker bracelet events. This is not poker. This is open up your wallet and try to build a big stack, and if you bust, open up your wallet and do it again, and again, and again, and again. Now, Norman Chat had a couple other good tweets in here too, but this point is an interesting one to me. Do we want to have all of these rebuy re-entry tournaments all over the place? And I can see some arguments both ways. The arguments that are in favor of it are it allows companies to make more money and that it allows good players to have more opportunities to win. The ones against it are it really just crushes the weaker players because they simply have to play more of their entry or a larger percentage of their tournament against good players. What re-entries really do are the good players are going to re-enter because they typically have the bankroll to do so. And so rather than playing with a wider variety of people that are weaker on average, you play more against the same people who are on average stronger. I think overall, I don't feel that strongly on this subject. I do think it's good to have freeze out. I think a lot of people do enjoy that structure. However, I also can see some allure to building up the biggest possible prize pool. I don't think this is as big of a deal as Norman Chad's making it out to be. But you could also argue, is the prestige of a bracelet supposed to be about entering a tournament 8 times? And maybe you feel that it's not. Personally, as someone that has 3 bracelets, I don't think that they're worth very much. No, seriously, I've checked on eBay. They're really not worth very much. But this is where you guys come in, the good people of the poker community. What do you think about tournaments? Do you think we should have these re-entry shit shows? Should the World Series of Poker have a European leg? I don't know if people are talking about that, but I'm not afraid to talk about it here today. And do we have to have some kinds of standards in place for the prestige of bracelets?
I think it deserved to count as a bracelet. I don't know if the ones in Australia next year should count or not. I think the Players' Council, we're going to have to get a Players' Council together and decide before we go over there.
Or not? Is it all in the spirit of the game? Is it all about just making everything a $37 tournament with 172,000 entries? I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments below. Anyway, that's going to do it here today for Poker News. And if you're interested in checking out Kane's Short Deck Mastery course, there's a link in the description below.